Hello again, everyone. I'm Seth Butler, Public Information Officer for the City of Gatlinburg, and we're here at Herbert Holt Park, which is on the banks of the west prong of the Little Pigeon River. And today we're going to talk about the city's municipal trout farm, which is the only municipal trout farm in the state of Tennessee. And today we're joined by our trout facility manager, Travis Williams. Thank you for taking some time with us, Travis.
Thank you guys for coming down, Seth.
Yeah. So today we can talk a little bit about the operations of the trout farm and what y'all do over there, and a little bit about fishing in Gatlinburg and some of the operations you all do here at the park.
Okay.
So just tell us about the trout facility, how unique it is, and what you all kind of do there.
Like you mentioned before, we're unique because we're the only municipally run trout facility in the state of Tennessee. Everything else is either run by the federal government or the state government. So we're not actually a hatchery, we're a rearing facility. So Irwin National Hatchery in Irwin, Tennessee breeds the fish. Once they collect those eggs, they'll ship those eggs to the Buffalo Springs State Hatchery, operated by TWRA. TWRA will hatch those fish, and once they're 6 to 8 inches in length, they'll bring them to us. And at that point, we'll raise them for stocking the next year.
Mm-hmm. So basically what you all do at the trout facility is you get the fish, you feed them, you get them big, then you eventually use them to stock the rivers throughout the year.
Yes, we get the fish, they call them fingerlings, so they'll be usually 6 to 8 inches, some smaller, but we'd like for them to get up to a pound before we stock them.
Mm-hmm. So just take us through a typical day down at the facility and what you all do there.
Here at the facility, we also help to maintain Herbert Holt Park. So on a typical day, we'll show up. Our first objection is to make sure the fish are doing well that day. So we'll feed the fish, clean up around the trout raceways. Once we have the fish taken care of, we'll come out, start cleaning up the trash in the park, clean the restrooms, patrol the banks here to make sure that we have no adults fishing in the children's only stream, since this section is for 12 and under only.
Okay. So every Thursday you all stock fish into the rivers here in Gatlinburg, is that correct?
Yes, every Thursday we stock. We've been stocking 600 pounds every week since the 1st of January. Now we've dialed it back to about 400 pounds per week just because the water's lower and warmer and we can't safely put 600 pounds in the truck at one time.
Right. So where do you all stock throughout the city?
A lot of people don't understand it, but the spur, the majority of it is actually our water. So from Natty Branch on the spur all the way up to Herbert Holt Park here in Gatlinburg is our water. And then from here we have another 2 miles of water up to the water plant just above traffic light number 10. Mm-hmm. We also stock Roaring Fork from its confluence with the West Prong Little Pigeon up to the park boundary. We stock LeConte Creek from its confluence with the West Prong Little Pigeon to the park boundary, and we stock Dudley Creek. So
Travis, you mentioned that here at Herbert Holt Park, this is a kids fishing only area. Is there any other restricted waters, or how does that work throughout the city?
The only other restricted waters we have is LeConte Creek at Minot Park. It's also going to be a children's only stream. The rest of the water is open year-round to the public to fish, adults or children. Mm-hmm. One unique thing we also have here at Herbert Holt Park, one small section that adults can fish, is the handicap pier. We have an ADA accessible pier for handicapped people of any age to fish.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody's wanting to come up here and fish, they don't have a license, what kind of license do they need to fish here in Gatlinburg?
If they don't have any type of license and they're going to fish less than 4 days, the easiest thing is to buy the type 097 one-day Gatlinburg license, which is $11.50 before the processing fees. If they already have a Tennessee license with a trout stamp, they can buy either a 1-day or a 3-day license. If they have a Tennessee sportsman's license, no additional license is required.
Mm-hmm. So where can people go to get their fishing license? I know they can go online, I believe, but is there any other ways they can get those licenses?
Yes, they can go to the Gatlinburg Welcome Center on 441 just below town. They can go to Food City or to Gatlinburg City Hall. If for some reason you don't want to make it to one of those places, you want to get out early, if you go to gooutdoorstennessee.com, you can actually buy it straight from the state online. It'll cost you the same amount of money. You just have to make sure that if you're going to fish here, your license says Gatlinburg on it, and you have to make sure and read the fine print, because some of those less expensive licenses will say only valid if accompanied by other state licenses.
So Travis, I know you've been very experienced out here on the waters in Gatlinburg for quite some time. Any kind of tips, tricks, things you can recommend for those coming up here to fish in the streams, in the river?
For your regular trout fishermen, their typical methods will work here. What we see a lot of is tourists coming into town using very heavy saltwater or bass gear. These fish are used to feeding on much smaller lures and flies in the water, so that gear is going to be so big that it'll spook the fish. So you typically want to fish 2 to 6 pound fishing line with size 8 or smaller hooks. So we're getting a little pickup from the fly fishing community. If you're coming up here to fly fish, your typical flies that you would fish for stock fish will work very well. If you're not getting any bites, if you transition over to something a little more natural, the fish that have held in here for a while are going to start eating stoneflies, mayflies, caddisflies, or maybe even crawfish and helger mites. So if you go to a more natural pattern, then you'll start picking up a lot more fish where otherwise you wouldn't catch any.
So how does fishing here differ throughout the different seasons with the weather or the temperature of the water, those kind of things?
We're really at the mercy of the weather here in Gatlinburg. During the winter, our water can actually get down to or below freezing, but because it's moving, it doesn't freeze very often. And during the summer, this year, we've seen a few days that the water got into the high 70s, which can be lethal for the trout. Typically, when the water temperature is above 68, the trout won't feed well if they feed at all, and it can be lethal to the trout to catch them and put them under the stress of fighting them and getting in and handle them. So we recommend that if you're going to fish when the water is above 68, that you do keep the fish. If you want to release the fish, then we just ask that you go to one of the higher streams. It's going to be a little bit cooler temperature.
Of course, during the winter, we have a different catch and release season. Is that correct?
Yes, from December 1st through the end of March, we have delayed harvest, we call it. So it's catch and release only, single hook only, and completely artificial. No scents, flavors, or anything that's ever been alive in any way.
Travis, thank you for spending some time with us today here at Herbert Holt Park and the city's trout facility. It's a unique operation you all do here, and one that I think many people have a lot of questions and want information about, and it's a good arm of public relations for the city. So again, thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to spend with us to talk about fishing in Gatlinburg.
Oh, thank you all for coming down and helping to support us.
All right, and for the city of Gatlinburg, I'm Seth Butler.